Hi everyone, Susan Storm here, and today I want to explore ENFJ intelligence with you. Each of the 16 personality types has a unique form of intelligence, and while some people think that certain types are smarter than others, the truth is that each of the types is intelligent, but in their own way and has their own unique gifts. So ENFJs, they don't just want to know things, they want to move people with what they know. They learn to empower people. They study in order to serve people and to bring out the best in humanity. Their mind is a web of connections, always tying knowledge to meaning and meaning to human lives. So ENFJs tend to be natural leaders in the classroom and beyond. Psychologists have rated them as one of the top two types least likely to have trouble in school. Now, this isn't because everything comes easily, but because they approach learning in the same way they approach life, with heart, discipline, and vision. They usually have a very high academic self-esteem. They usually push themselves really hard. They're collaborative learners. They thrive best when they're studying in groups, one-on-one discussions, and creative group projects. They like to interact with people. The more they can make what they're learning personal, interactive, the more they can talk it out with other people, the more inspired they're going to be, and the more likely they are to put in their best work. So when it comes to grades and scores, ENFJs consistently score above average when it comes to IQ. And they also consistently earn above average grades in high school. In fact, they ranked third highest in SAT scores among engineering students and sixth highest in IQ scores among males out of all the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types. But ENFJ intelligence isn't just test scores and straight A's, and there will certainly be ENFJs who aren't going to fit in these parameters. Some have more advantages when it comes to education than others. There are many different things that impact that. ENFJs have a goal-oriented, holistic learning style. They also have an ability to grasp abstract concepts and theoretical topics more easily than some types who need everything to be much more concrete and literal. ENFJs like to tie everything they're learning to humanity, to human growth, relationships, transformation. They're always trying to think about how they can make the world better for people, how they can understand people better, how they can have better relationships. This is probably why ENFJs are overrepresented in careers like the arts, counseling, psychology, coaching, or even religious professions. So as judges, ENFJs do crave a bit of structure in their learning. They like to have clear goals, but they also like to have flexibility to achieve those goals in their own way. They don't like to be micromanaged at all, but they do like to know where they're going, what the timeline is. They need milestones, they need motivation, and they really like to have consistent feedback from whoever is teaching the class. Another quality of ENFJs is that they tend to be very self-critical and they tend to have extremely high standards for themselves. Because of this, criticism from a teacher can hit really hard. It can feel like they're just drowning in criticism. Approval or disapproval is very important to them. It really leaves an impact. So they need criticism to feel very caring. They need to feel constructive. And they need to feel like the teacher actually cares about helping them and knowing what they're trying to do and understanding the problem. Underneath their very seemingly confident, organized exterior, ENFJs have such high expectations that it can get in their way, in that a little bit of criticism can sometimes make them feel like they should just give up. Now, they tend to be very persistent in their education, but they often can have real crises if they feel like they're getting nothing but negative feedback. So even as kids, ENFJs are interested in learning through interaction. They like reading out loud, they like classroom projects, they like collaborative projects, and they especially like oral presentations. While many other types shy away from this, and it's a big fear for many types, ENFJs actually tend to enjoy oral presentations. They often say that their best ideas come to them when they're speaking out loud, that the data becomes clear, their knowledge becomes clearer as they're speaking. Their minds are always moving. They have a continuous stream of ideas and insights all playing out in their mind. They love reading between the lines, spotting hidden meanings, and pulling these big picture themes out of life's messiness. They're always looking for the bigger picture and the bigger meaning behind something. Nothing is just a standalone experience. It always has more profound meaning, and they're always trying to extract that. This gives them an advantage when it comes to learning about subjects like philosophy, or when it comes to writing projects, or understanding literature, where there's a lot of these really profound themes. Where they can struggle is with the nitty-gritty details of learning. Sometimes those impersonal details are a little less interesting to them, and so their mind kind of filters them out on accident. So that is something where they can struggle, is just with those little nitty-gritty impersonal details. If there's any way that an ENFJ can make something personal, they're much more likely to remember the lesson, they're much more likely to use it. But if it can't find a way to make what they're learning personal, if they can't find a way to make it human-oriented, then it can be a lot harder for them to be able to remember all those facts and all those details. When it comes to problem solving, don't just look at what's logical, they look at what's best for everyone involved. They weigh decisions through the lens of personal values and harmony. What is going to get everyone's needs met? What is going to be best for people? How is this going to impact or affect people? What are the real world impacts of what I'm doing? And what are the real world impacts for the people in my life? So let's look at a few ENFJs in history that have made a big difference. I'll start with one of my favorite historical ENFJs, Martin Luther King Jr. He used his deep understanding of people to move a nation. He combined intellectual rigor with empathy, emotion, and emotional power. He created speeches that stirred the conscience of millions of people, drawing attention to the things that we as humans all share, regardless of the color of our skin. He helped to create empathy and a sense of justice for the civil rights movement, for Black people who were being discriminated against, who were experiencing prejudice and unfairness in every aspect of their lives. But instead of just attacking his enemies, he found ways to build bridges and ways to help them see from a new perspective. His I Have a Dream speech wasn't just words, it was a vision carefully constructed to reach both people's hearts and their minds. So Martin Luther King Jr. coordinated massive peaceful protests, like the Montgomery bus boycott and the March on Washington, uniting people under a shared ethical cause. His brilliance wasn't just in his ideas, it was how he inspired people to join alongside him and to work together in unity. Next, Nelson Mandela. He survived 27 years in prison without losing sight of his goal, a free, democratic South Africa. That level of perseverance and that strategic vision, it took strategy to come up with that plan, and patience and commitment. But what made him really remarkable in many ways was what he did after he was released from prison. Instead of seeking revenge, Mandela advocated for reconciliation, forming the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to heal their broken nation. He used his insight into people's pain and pride to forge unity where there had been division. He didn't just win a political battle. He reshaped the fabric, the emotional fabric, and the values of his country. Next, let's look at Maya Angelou. She turned personal trauma into poetry, lifted generations. She once said, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you." Her storytelling was transformational. In books like I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, she showed the power of vulnerable expression, helping readers confront racism, grief, sexual abuse, and identity. She taught, she mentored, she gave voice to the voiceless, always reaching outwards and always calling others to be better, to be empowered. So these weren't just smart people. These ENFJs we're talking about, they didn't hoard knowledge, they used it to liberate, to uplift, and to lead. ENFJs are overrepresented in things like writing, reading, or appreciating art. They have a deep need for creative expression. And that's something that you can see in all three of these amazing ENFJ leaders from history, is that they used their voice, whether it was through writing or speeches, to dramatically change the world for people. So if you're an ENFJ and you're watching this, I hope you come away feeling inspired. I hope you come away feeling proud of what you can bring to the world, the gifts and talents that you have. And I hope you can use that visionary, relational impact that you have, that knowledge and that insight into people and situations and outcomes that you have to improve the world, like some of these people we've just talked about, but in your own unique way. If you'd like to find out more about ENFJs, be sure to check out my website at psychologyjunkie.com, where I've written over 1,000 articles about the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types. I've also written about the 9 Enneagram types. I would love to see you there, or if you have a question, be sure to leave a comment. I would love to get back to you on that. I also offer type clarification sessions for anyone who's not sure about their personality type. I will leave a link in the description for those. And I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.